Welcome to another edition of Perspective 254. The name is Agility Kesa. We're about to jump into the Masengeli Saga, a legal drama so absurd it feels like an episode of a really bad reality show. Except, tragically, in this case, it is not a show, it is real life. Now, before we continue, please do me a favor. Go down there, hit that subscribe button, and then come back. Let us do like we do. Now, imagine a situation where 3 men go missing in a country. The police refuse to cooperate. Acting Inspector General of Police basically treats court orders like they are spam emails. It all started on August 19 when 3 men, Jamil Longton Hashim, his brother Islam Longton, and activist Bob Muchemi Njagi, were allegedly abducted by people who looked very suspiciously, very much like they were cops. Now, naturally, their families freaked out. But when they turned to the police for answers, they were met with the world's most confusing and the biggest shrug. We don't know. Instead of helping the families figure out what happened to their kinfolk, the police did what they do best in situations like this, which is nothing, absolutely nothing. So the families, left in the dark, had no choice but to turn to the courts of law, and that is when the whole thing spiraled into a full-blown mess. Hapo ndio kuliharibika kabisa. By August 23rd, Justice Lawrence Mugambi was on the case. Justice Mugambi, issued orders for the police to either do 2 things: either produce the 3 missing men or explain their whereabouts. Police wakuja waseme hao watu wameenda wapi. And that sounds simple enough, right? You would think? Well, wrong. Enter one Gilbert Masengeli, the acting Inspector General of Police, a man whose approach to accountability seems to involve never, ever showing up in a court whenever he is asked to do so. Because Mr. Masengeli was summoned to court to explain what could have happened to the 3 poor fellows, the 3 poor souls that went missing. Well, he ignored the court order again and again and again and again. 7 times he ignored the court summons to appear before Justice Mugambi. Because why? Right? I am the police, right? You know how some people sometimes pretend their phone died just so they can avoid answering awkward phone calls? Yep, that was Mr. Masengeli right there. Except, instead of avoiding a friend in this case, Mr. Masengeli was actually dodging a judge. Classic move, right? Now, Justice Mugambi, who clearly is not someone to be ignored, set a new court date for September 3rd, demanding that Masengeli appear to explain himself before him. By September 4th, Masengeli was supposed to be gearing up for his big court date, his big court appearance the following day. But where was he? Well, Mr. Masengeli was in Mombasa at a farm show. The acting Inspector General of Police, who at the time was supposed to be answering questions in a court of law about 3 missing men, was at the Agricultural Society of Kenya ASK show in Mombasa, inspecting the National Police Service stand. Hiyo ndio alikuwa anafanya. While the courts demanded answers, Mr. Masengeli was busy checking out livestock in Mombasa. Alikuwa anaangalia ng'ombe. Because you know what? Nothing says urgent police work like hanging out at a farm expo, right? ASK show kuangalia ng'ombe. That was when things started to feel a little bit like a fuss, because Masengeli was clearly avoiding court like it was some kind of a dentist appointment. You know, on September 9th, Justice Mugambi was done playing games with Mr. Masengeli, because Masengeli, for the 7th time, did not show up in court as summoned. Instead, he sent his deputy, David Lagat, which is basically the legal equivalent of sending your roommate to go take your final exam for you. You know, because Justice Mugambi was not having it. He was not happy. So he found Mr. Masengeli guilty of contempt of court. And then, just when you thought things could not get any weirder, we learned that one of Mr. Masengeli's colleagues, Lazarus Opicho, who had been making phone calls to Justice Mugambi's driver, asking about the judge's whereabouts. Yes, while the acting IG Inspector General was ghosting court dates, one of his guys, thought it would be a wonderful idea to snoop on the judge. Opicho was ordered to explain himself in a court where he apologized for what, frankly, was a very, very, very dumb thing to do, right? Like, dude, why? Why would you think that was okay, right? Watu wako na ujinga sana huko nje. Now, fast forward to September 13th. September 13th. At this point, Masengeli was officially sentenced to 6 months in jail for contempt of court. Polisi aende jela. That's right. The acting head of the police, the guy who's supposed to enforce the law, was now on the wrong side of the same law. This was a massive win for the courts and for anyone else who cares about police accountability. Things took a darker turn just 3 days later. On September 16th, Chief Justice Martha Koome made an announcement that was as shocking as it was suspicious, because Justice Mugambe's security detail and his driver had apparently been disarmed and withdrawn. That's right. The judge who had just sentenced the most powerful police officer in the country to jail suddenly had no security. This move was so blatant, so obviously retaliatory, that it was like the police were actually holding up a neon sign that said, "We are punishing you. We are punishing you." I mean, come on, man. Seriously. You know, the timing of this scene could not have been any more obvious if they sent a memo that said, "We did this to scare you." This wasn't just dangerous for Justice Mugambe, it was dangerous for the entire judiciary. You know, the message was clear. If you cross the police, then your security can disappear at any moment. Now, on September 17th, Mr. Masengeli finally broke his silence. You know, and his defense, the security officers were just recalled for training. The security officers were called for training. Yes, you heard that right. Alisema waliitwa wafanye training, because clearly the best time to send officers for training is right after their judge sentences you to jail. Nice try, Mr. Masengeli. Now, the public is not buying this, and neither was anyone with even the slightest grasp of how retaliation works. This was tit for tat. This was about intimidation, plain and simple. Tit for tat. You do this to me, I do this to you. Now, while all this legal drama was playing out, let's not forget the reason it all started. There's 3 men, Jamil, Aslam, and Bob, that were still missing up to this point. Their families, who had hoped for answers by this point, were left in the background as the saga of Masengeli's courtroom antics took center stage. Now, the Masengeli Saga exposed a much larger issue here, which is police accountability, or the complete lack of it. The whole case actually shined a light on how broken the system is and how little accountability the police are used to facing. Masengeli's sentencing was a victory for the courts and a rare moment for the justice system that often lets powerful people off the hook. However, we have also learned just how fragile accountability in this country is. The fact that Justice Mugambe's security was pulled right after he sentenced Masengeli shows that there is still a long way to go. Now, the 3 missing men are still unaccounted for, and their families are still waiting for answers on this. At the end of the day, the Masengeli Saga is a chilling reminder that in a functioning democracy, no one, not even the police, should be above the law. But as long as the powerful keep dodging accountability, it is up to the courts and the public and all of us to keep demanding justice.